Okay guys, we are back on the Cathay hype today. Last week I gave you the Cathayan Sentinel, which of course we had a little bit of problems with, but in the end we ended up with a perfect and beautiful miniature. In today's video I'm going to be tackling what seems like the most challenging piece, which is the Cathay Lantern, the Sky Lantern, which is a truly gigantic piece. It's a massive miniature, and yeah, it is not a difficult model to build and paint, but it is a time-consuming model to build and paint. It definitely does take up a lot of your day to get this thing constructed, and what I thought would be a kind of a day paint job to get just kind of this part of it done turned into nearly 3 days. So definitely a lot more time needed to go into this thing than I expected. I have yet to do the crew or the bombs. I'll do them in later videos. One thing I'm currently struggling with is what color my actual Cathay infantry will be. Therefore, I don't really know what color I'm painting the crew just yet. On top of that, I noticed something in the sprues of this miniature which suggests to me that we will be getting more Cathayan Sky Lantern vessels in the future. I'm going to share that with you later in the video. Okay, so obviously I had a lot of trouble with the Cathayan Sentinel when it comes to construction, so I decided that I would make sure that this one is kind of up to code for you guys. So I did include a little bit of the construction work of the Sky Lantern in this video. And it goes together like a dream, like butter. Every single part clicks together exactly the way you'd expect a Games Workshop kit to. Basically the same experience that I've had with Games Workshop kits for years. I've no idea why the Sentinel was so bad for me. A lot of other creators have reached out to me and have basically had the same comments. They felt exactly the same way as I did. So it's not just me being a bit weird. Like I said, I'm quite a competent builder. But like I said, we're on the topic of the Sky Lantern here. It's perfect. So there's absolutely no qualms about putting this thing together. And it's a fairly simple process. And the results are so good. So spectacular. What a piece. Now, I expected this video to only take a day to produce. I know that sounds crazy, but most of my videos only take a day to do like the painting side of things. I consciously decided that I wouldn't do the crew in this video as I don't have a scheme for them yet. I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. But I thought I could get the balloon done in a day, and I was wrong. It's taken 2.5 days to get the balloon itself painted up, the Sky Lantern itself painted up. And it's not because it's difficult. It is not a hard miniature to paint. It's just a time-consuming miniature to paint. There's lots of different details, and a lot of sharp, like extra trim, and the ropes going around the balloon, and all that kind of stuff. And to paint all those bits, it just takes time because you can't really go fast with them, or then you're going to spill over from one section to another with paint, and that's going to be a disaster. So when you do look at this, if people are wondering to kind of add these to their army, I personally am going to be adding 2 of them. They're only 135 points without upgrades. They cost nothing points-wise to put on the table, and I think they're spectacular. So I personally want 2 of them. I'm not going to be jumping onto a second one straight away. I think I'll do a big portion of the army, and then maybe I'll get my hands on a second one and get that built and painted. There's obviously 2 different ways of building it as well. This one that I built the crew with the magistrate on top. Obviously the other one will have the standard crew with the champion and stuff. Just so I have all the options in my collection. When the piece was all constructed, as it is now, it's not glued to that flight stand. This is the magistrate, by the way. This is the crew that I have obviously assembled and got ready for painting. They're just very loosely super glued to these painting handles for ease of painting. And they'll get like snapped off of those and glued in place whenever they're painted. I may start on them on my stream tonight, who knows? Well, we shall see. But like I said, we're going to focus on the balloon. I got it all built, then I got it all sprayed black, and then sprayed a light grey. And it's now time to start the painting process. Now obviously this looks quite intimidating for a lot of people, so I'm going to show you guys some very simple techniques to paint this thing to a really nice standard without worrying about it too much. So for instance, the balloon itself, which is another quite intimidating piece of painting that a lot of people will be worried about, is so simple. First things first, I'm going to paint Skeleton Horde on all of the canopy. And I know at this stage it looks absolutely terrible. It looks gross. Do not worry about it though. We're going to be diving in with 2 layers of dry brushing, and by the end of those 2 layers of dry brushing, it's going to look fantastic. It's going to be full of texture. It's going to be nice and smooth. It's awesome. The 2 colors I'm going to go for is Morghast Bone and then Ushabti Bone. These 2 complement each other very well. They're on the same kind of line of triad colors. Screaming Skull being the last one, but we won't worry about that. So, Morghast Bone, a large flat dry brush with the majority of the paint taken off, as is tradition with dry brushing. And then going back and forth across the same area, and also adding in some small circular motions as well, also adds to the effect and give you a nice smooth transition between that base skeleton horde and the first coat, which is Morghast Bone. The important thing to remember when dry brushing an area like this is that less is definitely what you want to be aiming for. It's always easier to add a little bit of paint on, another layer on, than it is to kind of overdo it, leave a smudge, and then try and correct that after will be a nightmare. You can see the different panels there. This is after one dry brush. And as you can see, you can't really see a lot of those smudges or marks or anything like that from the contrast. And we're already off to the right track. Ushabti Bone is then doing exactly the same step as previous, but just a little bit lighter. Not too much lighter. We are going to be adding a lot of the detail with the Ushabti Bone into it. You can see I'm moving slower. I'm being a little bit more controlled, trying to catch some of those sharper edges. But all in all, it's roughly the same thing. And you can see how awful it looked at the start when I just applied the contrast, and then how cool the kind of patched panel looks now. I think that's an absolutely crazy transformation. And like I said, all it is one shade and two dry brushes. Or sorry, one contrast and two dry brushes got me the result on the balloon. No airbrush required, no madness, no extra skills, no maddening glazes for none of that. Just an L contrast and two dry brushes and you're there. Okay, now it's time to start working on the ropes. And for this, I went for the darker of the two red contrasts, which for some reason now is evading my memory. Sorry, Flesh Tear's red. I don't know why that escaped me. I use it all the time. So Flesh Tear's red contrast, a single coat on all of the ropes that are holding this balloon to its gondola. Is that the right term for what hangs underneath a balloon? Perhaps. Howada? I don't know. But yeah, so like I said, this is one of those sections which took way longer than expected. You should also consider the whole idea of like right-handed versus left-handed painters and rotate the model the correct way when you're painting it, if that makes sense. So if you're right-handed, paint from left to right as you're going around it. If you go from right and work to left, most of the time you're just going to smudge some of that red paint across like your pinky or your palm, move to the next section, and you're going to hit the balloon with that, smudge it, and then it's going to be a nightmare to fix later on. I know because I did it once or twice. It's fine. I went through the nightmare of fixing it. But yeah, I obviously the ropes continue down onto the gondola, I think. And I will paint those in Flesh Tear's red in a minute, but I wanted to get the rest of the base coats on that underneath section first. So basically it wasn't going to be in the way. Once again, I reached for Skeleton Horde and I painted the interior wood, that like nice bright wood, in a single coat of that and left it alone. That's all I'm going to do for that wood. It's going to have 5 awesome dudes and a table with dumplings, tea and an abacus on it. No one's going to be looking at the floor in there. But a simple base coat means that your kind of bases are covered. Blood Angel's red was then used for all of that like nice lacquered wood, that painted wood, very Chinese style, bridges are painted in it and all sorts. It's so nice, it's so beautiful, and obviously I was going to carry that through. It is the traditional way of painting the sky lantern. From here, it's time for some Retributor Armor Gold, and a whole bunch of the detail and trim on this model is going to get painted with that color. So obviously this huge big top section is going to get done with the gold. Now, if you look at it compared to the box art gold, Retributor Armor is absolutely not the right color. It's much more patina and it's much more worn looking. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll make it look that way. Do not worry. Just for now, Retributor Armor block in all those gold colors, including the huge burner section underneath. And then if you look at those red poles coming off the side, there's a beautiful dragon design wrapping around those poles. That's all done in gold as well. I did decide to add a little bit more red than what we currently see here. If you see those kind of side wing bits, the wood that's like holding out those, the spindles or whatever that hold out those wings, they did them in a brown. I decided, you know what? No, I think they would be painted wood as well. So in a minute, you will see those sections transform into red. And I think that was the right choice. I think it adds a really nice pop of color along those edges. Considering that we're going to be doing those wings in black, I think black and brown would have been quite dull. So black with a nice polished red, I think works a treat. Here I am going back in on those ropes now that a lot of the base coating has been done. So just once again, flesh tears red on the rest of those ropes to make it all connect. And then you can see those wing membranes I was talking about are now suddenly red. Lead Belcher is the last base coat that is required, and once again this is going to take a little bit of time because all the other details on the model are supposed to get done, apart from those wings, in silver. So the handles holding on the burner unit, and then they sweep down, then huge mechanical structure-y bits that are holding those side wings on, and then the banding around the actual wooden gondola itself. There's 2 bands of silver around that as well. It's just a whole bunch of detail, and like I said, it's not difficult to do, it just takes time. It honestly probably took me like an hour to base coat in all the silver, which is really tedious work, but not difficult. And for centerpiece models like this, and a Cathay and Army that is as beautiful as this one, I think it is okay to take your time on these models. Gives them the attention that they deserve. As you can see, it's already making a huge difference. You can see the underneath section is kind of pale right now. Eventually I found a picture of what the underneath of it's supposed to look like, and I blocked it in red, added some gold detail. Black Templar is then used as the base coat for, like I said, those wings. The little ropey bits that hold the wings onto those red lattice bits as well. We decided to do those in Skeleton Horde, so I just very quickly did a Skeleton Horde coat around those. And there we have it. That's all the base coats are now on this miniature. So I reached for a shade, and I reached for Colia Green Shade. This is where everyone might think that I'm absolutely psychotic, but I'm not. Please trust the process. Colia Green Shade will look absolutely fantastic over that gold. It will add that really nice aged patina look to the gold. Green is also kind of on the correct place in the color wheel to complement the red. So it's okay to do a coat over that. And then we will just layer that up in a moment, neaten it all up and all that kind of jazz. We did hit the silver, we hit the black. We did not hit any of those ropes or any of the balloon. That's all finished in my mind, apart from like transfers and stuff. Which may seem kind of crazy, but I am finishing off the rope around the balloon. That is finished with 1 coat of contrast. I'm not going to touch it again. I do not need to. There's so much beautiful texture on that rope that it just works a treat. Okay, with the shade fully dry, it is now time to go in and start the layering process. And for this, we are going to once again reach for my trusty dry brush. We're going to go for Iron Breaker, and we are going to go for a light dry brush across all of those metallic parts, all the gold, all the silver. You can hit the red gondola bit as much as you want when you're dry brushing those areas. As you see, I don't really care when I hit them. I just want to get the nice highlight on those gold parts, including those little dragons and everything across the side. When we layer up the red, we'll tidy it all up, so don't be worrying too much. So you can see how I dry brush the dragon here, making sure to get the highlights right on the dragon. Who cares about the red? When that's all dry brushed up, looks great. Now it's time to start layering up the red, making that look really nice. We are still not finished with the patina style on the gold as well. We'll be adding another step to that a little bit later. So for the red, we're going to move over to Mephiston Red, and just very carefully layer up the entire gondola part. Being very careful to go around all those gold designs. As apart from, like I said, a little bit more patining or aging later on is done. So we don't want to be hitting those and having to go back and repaint them. That might be a little bit of a nightmare. Once again, not a difficult thing to do, just time consuming. It's going to take you about half an hour a coat to go around this model and get all those clean lines. Because you do want to work between those panels. The between panels you want to leave nice and dark, and just hit these nice square flat panels with the red. You can see the difference it makes as the kind of like the first layer job. And of course, working down those poles that hang the hold the wings on, and making sure to go around the gold sections of that dragon, which is one of my favorite details. This wooden pole being lacquered red and having that golden dragon wrapped around it is so cool looking, and it's so intriguing, so interesting to paint, and obviously a great detail on the piece. So just, yeah, like you said, give it the time it deserves and layer it up. Okay, with the red, you can see the left wing isn't highlighted, the right wing is highlighted with the red. It makes a huge difference. And then going down its, I guess its tail section. This is another section that hangs off the back. And what it actually holds is a complement of ordnance bombs. which I've yet to paint up as well. So them and the crew are the last bits too. There's actually a little bit of jingly stuff that hangs off underneath of it that I need to paint as well, which I will do. I do want all the details and all the awesome bits finished on this thing when it's a finished piece in my cabinets. So yeah. Evil Sun Scarlet for the final highlight on that red. And as you can see, I'm going in, I'm being very careful, and I'm adding in a kind of streakier, more textured kind of highlight to that. A single coat of it will do the job just fine and make the gondola part really pop out on the battlefield. Once again, going between all those silver areas. And because we dry burst all those silver areas with Iron Breaker earlier on, they're done. You don't have to do any more to them. They look fantastic. And when someone looks down at this thing on the tabletop, those little silver details are not what their eyes are going to be drawn to. The big balloon, the transfers, the crew, the gold, all that, but not really the background silver or anything like that. Speaking of things like transfers, I would consider myself quite skilled when it comes to the use of transfers because I've used them so much. And applying these transfers, even for me, was very challenging. It is not an easy thing to do. I had to use every trick in the book that I know in order to get these things on in the right position, lined up, sitting flush. You know what I mean? It's not an easy thing. If you are not super comfortable with transfers, or if this is like a new thing to you, these are not the transfers to start your transfer journey with. Put these guys away in a drawer. You can always add to the model later on. Go away and get some practice doing transfers on something else. Maybe even cut out some of the transfers you don't plan on using off of the transfer sheet and start applying them to spare bits of model and stuff you have lying around, just to get a feel for it. Because I promise you, this was a nightmare. And like I said, I didn't even leave all the footage in there because I don't think I can convey in a small section of the video how to apply these transfers correctly, the kind of tools that I used and stuff. If people do want me to really go into detail on doing it, when I do a second balloon, I am more than happy to like do a whole section on how I did those transfers and share that with you guys. But for right now, I don't feel comfortable trying to convey that in just a simple video section. Some nihilic oxide is then added to all of the gold sections in kind of recesses and crevices. This will add that final level of kind of weather detail to this model. A few drops of super glue. I started to apply static grass to my bases with super glue, and just by kind of spotting it on, my brain is quite structured. So when I try and do something and not do a pattern, I inevitably do a pattern without meaning to. I find that when I just kind of squirt the glue around the base, it does its own thing, and I think it looks really good and patchy and it works nicely. I had to go to a different camera angle to try and get this whole thing in frame for this finished Sky Lantern, at least the Sky Lantern part of it. Like I said, bombs and crew to come. I'm really pleased with the final result. I think this thing looks fantastic. It is definitely... It's hard to know what the centerpiece of the Cathay army is. Is it this? Is it the Sentinel Sky Lantern, or is it the Dragon? I don't know. Each and every one of them have their own place and their own... Just so cool. Yeah, I've got a couple of still images to give you guys some more examples. And then the very last section of this video, which will kick in 30 seconds or so, will be my secret thing that I found out whilst constructing it. So please do wait around and watch that. If you've gotten this far, please think about giving the video a like, dropping a comment, making sure you subscribe, checking out things like Patreon and becoming a channel member. A whole bunch of benefits in there. Discord servers and extra videos and all sorts. So it'd be really cool if you guys could check those out. So yeah. Okay, please allow for my crazy conspiracy theory mind to run away with itself for just a moment. So this is the Sky Lantern instructions. Inside, it tells you that this kit contains 5 sprues. One main big sprue, which contains the wings and kind of bottom bits and all that, and the crew. Makes perfect sense. Then you get 2 of these ones, which contain the lantern balloon, so like half the lantern is in each one. So you double up, put them together, and you get 1 lantern. And then you get 2 of these sprues. So this is this one. Obviously, I've used all of it. There's just the extra crew member left over because the opposite one I built. 2 of this one, which I've got a little bit left to do from the bits that hang underneath it, but other than that, they're empty. But the one that I want to talk about is this one, the smaller sprue, which is indicated right here, okay? Obviously, this one just contains things like The ropes that hold the balloon on, some of the bombs, so 2 individual bombs are on this sprue, and then a couple of trim parts and stuff like that, which tells me that this is a sprue that can be taken from this one and dropped into other kits. Very simple. It's literally just one that has lines and details and stuff. You could throw 2 of these into another kit and use the same ropes and stuff. Don't worry, that's not all the evidence I have that suggests this. As I was constructing this kit, I noticed that I had some parts left over, and these parts were fairly confusing to me. Why, if it'll focus for me, is there 2 Cathayan infantry shields, and why is there 2 Cathayan swords left over? I poured back through the instructions to see if there's anywhere where I was meant to put them, any optional bits, where they're supposed to hang off the side, or any different crew member supposed to hold them or anything like that, and I could find absolutely nothing. And when I went back to the instructions, you'll notice that these are, in this area, the top 2 squares here, and the bottom left and bottom right of the sprue, including this bit here, which I still don't know what it is. On the pictures of their instructions, those parts are empty. No shields, no swords. And that bit as well is empty. So what the hell are those parts supposed to be used for, if not for another kit further down the line? The only explanation that I can think of, the fact they sneakily removed them from the instruction parts here, tells me they're trying to hide something from us, but we have figured it out, and I cannot wait for more Cathayan skyships.